This time, we're going to be looking at what it means to be a realized sage.
Oh, excellent.
And the source material for this deep dive is going to be verse 23 of the Bhaja Govindam.
Okay.
And to help us kind of unpack some of the deeper meanings and the symbolism, we're also going to be looking at some commentary by Adi Shankaracharya.
Yeah, Shankaracharya is a great commentator to go to on this.
Yeah, he's a renowned Indian philosopher, so this should be really fun. So the verse starts out.
Okay.
It says, "A sage wears a simple cloth torn into pieces."
I love that imagery.
Oh, it's so vivid.
And it really speaks to this idea of renunciation.
Yeah, like they've just completely let go of
Yeah.
any need for material possessions.
Mm-hmm. And that's really at the heart of Vedanta philosophy, this idea that attachment to material things is actually a distraction
Oh, I can see that.
from the path to self-realization.
Yeah, it's like we get so caught up in chasing,
Yeah.
the next,
They're like shiny objects.
the next car or the next house or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, and we think that happiness is going to come from having more stuff,
Right?
but true fulfillment,
Yeah.
it comes from a completely different place.
So how does this idea of detachment actually play out in the life of a sage?
Well, the verse goes on to say that the sage walks a path beyond good and bad, untouched by merit and demerit.
Okay, so that's interesting because it makes me think about the concept of karma.
Right.
This idea that our actions have consequences.
Exactly. Every action, every thought, every intention creates a ripple effect.
So is the verse suggesting that the sage is somehow exempt from karma?
Not exactly. It's a little more nuanced than that.
Okay.
The sage is still subject to the laws of the universe,
Okay.
but their actions are no longer driven by a desire for reward or a fear of punishment.
I see.
They act from a place of deep understanding, recognizing the interconnectedness of all things and the illusory nature of duality.
So they're not ignoring the consequences of their actions, but rather they're operating from a different level of awareness.
Exactly. And Shankaracharya believed that this detachment from the fruits of actions
Right.
is actually crucial for realizing our true self,
Okay.
which is beyond the reach of karma.
So this makes me think about how much we get caught up in judging things as good or bad.
Oh, yeah.
Labeling ourselves and others.
All the time.
Is it even possible to see beyond those labels?
That's the challenge, isn't it?
Yeah.
But this verse points towards the possibility of moving beyond those limited perspectives. It's an invitation to cultivate a more expansive view, recognizing the interconnectedness of all things and the impermanent nature of our judgment.
That's a really powerful shift in perspective.
It is.
So the verse goes on to tell us that the sage's mind is focused on meditation dedicated to the practice of yoga.
Right.
Now, when we hear yoga, we often think of...
Physical postures?
Yeah, are we talking about asana practice here?
Not quite. Well, physical postures are one aspect of yoga.
Okay.
The verse is emphasizing a deeper meaning. Here, yoga refers to the discipline of the mind. It's about really focusing and stilling the mental chatter.
So it's more about inner work than outward movements.
Exactly. It's about cultivating that mental clarity that allows us to see through the illusions of the mind and connect with a deeper sense of awareness.
That makes a lot of sense. So how can we cultivate this mental discipline in our own lives?
That's a great question.
Is it all about sitting in silent meditation?
Well, meditation is a powerful tool.
Sure.
But there are many paths to developing mental discipline. It can be as simple as bringing mindfulness to everyday activities, observing our thoughts without judgment, or practicing ethical conduct in our interactions with others.
So it's about weaving that awareness into the fabric of our daily lives.
Absolutely.
Not just relegating it to a specific time or place.
The more we practice, the more we cultivate this inner stillness, even amidst the busyness of life.
Yeah, and I think that's where we start to touch upon the incredible joy that the verse speaks of next. It describes the sage as reveling like a child or a madman.
Interesting.
Free from worldly desires, in an intense and pure state of joy.
I love that.
A child, a madman.
Yeah.
Those seem like unusual comparisons.
They do, don't they?
For a realized sage.
But they're so powerful.
Yeah, why those comparisons?
Well, think about the unadulterated joy of a child.
Okay.
They're completely present in the moment, absorbed in their experience,
Yeah.
free from all the worries and anxieties
Right.
weigh us down as adults.
Yeah, and what about the madman?
Well, the madman is often seen as someone who lives outside the confines of societal expectations.
Okay.
They don't conform to the norms or seek validation from the external world.
So the sage embodies both of these qualities.
Exactly.
The pure joy of a child.
Yes.
And the freedom of a madman.
They've shed the weight of worldly desires and societal expectations, and they experience a level of bliss that springs from within.
So it's not about literally acting like a child or a madman.
No.
But it's about tapping into those qualities.
Yes.
Of pure joy and unbridled freedom.
It's about rediscovering that innate sense of wonder and liberation that resides within each of us.
Right.
But it often gets buried under layers of conditioning and societal pressures.
I'm starting to see how all of this ties together.
Yeah.
This idea of renunciation and transcending duality, it's not about deprivation.
Yeah.
It's actually about finding a deeper, more authentic kind of happiness.
You got it. It's about peeling back the layers that keep us from experiencing the boundless joy that's already present within us.
That's a really beautiful way to put it.
And that's what I love about this verse. It's not just describing some distant, unattainable ideal.
Right.
It's pointing to a possibility that's open to all of us.
So let's bring this down to earth for a second. What does all this mean for someone like me?
Yeah.
You know, just trying to navigate the ups and downs of everyday life.
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is.
And the answer is both simple and profound.
Okay.
It's about cultivating awareness. You know, noticing when we're getting caught up in the pursuit of external things.
Yeah.
When we're judging ourselves and others. When our minds are racing with worries and anxieties.
So it's about being more mindful
Yes.
of our thoughts, feelings, and actions.
And from that place of awareness, we can start to make different choices.
Okay.
We can choose to let go of the things that don't truly serve us. We can choose to practice compassion, both towards ourselves and others. We can choose to cultivate stillness and focus through meditation or other practices that help us connect with our inner world.
So instead of being swept away by the current of life, we're learning to swim.
What a beautiful analogy. And the more we practice, the stronger we become.
Yeah.
The more we cultivate these qualities of renunciation, non-judgment focus, and inner joy, the closer we come to experiencing that same freedom and bliss that the sage embodies.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation.
It has.
Feels like we started with a simple verse.
I know.
And we ended up exploring the very nature of reality and happiness.
That's the power of these ancient teachings.
Yeah.
They're so layered and rich with meaning.
And even just contemplating these ideas can have a profound impact
Absolutely.
on our lives.
I agree.
So for our listeners who are feeling inspired to apply some of this wisdom to their own lives, what would you suggest as a starting point?
Well, going back to our metaphor of the torn cloth, I think a good place to begin is with the concept of detachment. Not necessarily giving up all our possessions, but rather noticing where we're clinging too tightly to things, to outcomes, to our own ideas about how things should be. Ask yourself, what can I loosen my grip on today?
I love that. And maybe even take some time to observe the children in our lives.
Oh, yeah.
See how they approach the world with such openness and wonder.
Yes. Such a good point.
Maybe there's something we can learn from them.
Absolutely. That sense of childlike wonder is a precious quality.
It is.
And it's something we can cultivate through practices like mindfulness and gratitude.
So even though the path of the sage might seem radical, there are actually small steps we can all take to move in that direction.
It's not an all or nothing proposition.
Right.
It's about making conscious choices moment by moment to align ourselves with those qualities of wisdom, compassion, and inner freedom.
I love it. This is great.
Good stuff.
Yeah, this has been awesome.
Yeah.
It's amazing how much we've uncovered already.
Yeah.
And it feels like we've only just begun to explore the depths of this verse.
I know, right? There's so much richness packed into these few lines.
Yeah. And speaking of richness, we haven't even touched upon the sage's inner state of bliss yet.
Right. The verse describes it as an intense and pure state of joy.
So what does that actually look like? I mean, is it like a constant euphoria or?
It's not so much about a fleeting emotional high, but more of a deep-seated sense of peace and contentment.
Okay.
And that arises from within.
So it's like a wellspring of joy.
Exactly.
That's not dependent on external circumstances.
Exactly. Not dependent on anything outside of yourself.
That sounds incredible, but is that even attainable?
Sure.
You know, for those of us who aren't
Yeah.
living as renunciates.
Well, remember, the verse uses the metaphor of a child to describe this joy.
Right.
Children experience that natural state of wonder and delight in the simplest of things.
Yeah.
They haven't yet developed all those complex layers of conditioning that tend to kind of cloud our perception.
Yeah, I think we can all relate to that feeling of childlike wonder.
Absolutely.
It's like when you see the world through fresh eyes.
Yeah. Everything feels new and exciting.
Exactly. And that's what's so beautiful about this teaching.
Yeah.
It reminds us that this capacity for joy is already within us.
It's not something we have to go out and get.
Exactly. We don't have to acquire it. It's more about uncovering it.
So how do we do that? How do we peel back those layers and reconnect with that inner joy?
Well, the practice of meditation, as mentioned in the verse, plays a key role by calming the mind, cultivating a state of inner stillness. We create space for that inherent joy to emerge.
That makes sense. But I think for a lot of people, meditation can feel like a struggle.
Oh, for sure.
Our minds are so busy and full of distractions.
Especially in today's world, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But the key is to approach meditation with patience and kindness.
Okay.
It's not about forcing our thoughts to disappear, but rather about observing them without judgment.
So it's more about cultivating a gentle awareness than it is about achieving some kind of perfect mental state.
Precisely. And even a few minutes of daily meditation can make a profound difference.
So it's like creating a sanctuary within ourselves.
A space where we can reconnect with that deep inner peace.
I love that image. And as we cultivate this inner peace, do we naturally become less reactive to the ups and downs of life?
Absolutely. We develop a sense of equanimity that allows us to navigate challenges with more grace and resilience.
So it sounds like this inner joy isn't just about feeling good.
No.
It's also about cultivating a deep sense of inner strength.
Absolutely. It empowers us to face life's complexities with more clarity and courage. We become less swayed by external pressures, more anchored in our true nature.
So this is starting to paint a very different picture of what it means to be a realized sage.
Yeah.
It's not about withdrawing from the world or living in some kind of blissful bubble.
Not at all. It's about engaging with the world from a place of deep inner peace and understanding. It's about bringing that joy and wisdom into every aspect of our lives.
So it's not about escaping the world, but about transforming our experience of it.
Exactly. And recognizing that the path to liberation and lasting happiness, it's an inner journey. It's about cultivating those qualities of awareness, detachment, and inner peace that allow us to experience the fullness of life.
This has been such an insightful exploration of this verse.
It has been.
Before we wrap up, I'm curious to know, what's the most impactful takeaway for you?
I think what resonates most deeply with me is the reminder that true happiness is not a destination, but a state of being. It's not something we achieve through external pursuits, but rather something we cultivate from within.
That's a powerful reminder. And it feels so liberating.
It is.
To realize that that kind of joy is available to all of us.
It truly is. And as we've discussed, there are practical steps we can take to cultivate this inner state. It's a journey of self-discovery and transformation that's available to anyone who's willing to embark on it.
I'm so grateful for your insights today.
The pleasure is all mine.
It feels like we've just scratched the surface of this profound wisdom.
Well, that's the beauty of these ancient teachings. They offer endless layers of understanding, and with continued contemplation and practice, we can continue to unfold their meaning in our own lives.
This deep dive has definitely inspired me to look inward.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that.
And cultivate those qualities of the sage that resonate with me. The childlike wonder, the inner peace, and the unbridled joy.
Those are good ones to focus on.
They are. So to everyone listening, we invite you to continue this exploration on your own.
Absolutely.
Reflect on the wisdom of this verse. See what insights emerge for you. You know, it's really fascinating how this one verse can be so concise and yet
contains so much wisdom. It really speaks to the power of poetry and metaphor.
Right, like they're using these literary devices to convey such profound truths.
Exactly. And it really helps these ideas resonate.
Yeah, it really makes you think beyond the surface level. So we've talked a lot about the inner qualities of the sage. But I'm curious about how those qualities actually manifest in their actions?
Oh, that's a good question.
In the world.
Yeah, because the verse doesn't explicitly describe the sage's actions.
Right.
But it does hint at a way of being in the world.
Okay.
That's both detached and compassionate.
So does that mean that the sage withdraws from society?
Not necessarily.
Or becomes a hermit?
Remember, the sage is untouched by merit and demerit.
Right.
So there's this freedom from the need to prove themselves
Yeah.
or to gain recognition for their actions.
So they act without expectation of reward or fear of punishment?
Exactly. They act from a place of inner alignment, guided by this deep understanding of the interconnectedness of all things.
Okay, so that sounds like a really selfless way of being.
It is.
But I'm wondering, could that lead to being passive or indifferent to the suffering of others?
That's a good question, but actually I think true compassion arises from this very detachment.
Okay.
Because when we're not caught up in our own ego's desires and fears, we can actually respond to the needs of others with much greater clarity and genuine empathy.
So it's not about ignoring suffering.
No.
But it's about approaching it with a different kind of awareness.
Exactly. The sage embodies this beautiful balance of wisdom and compassion. They understand that everything is impermanent, including suffering, yet they still act with this deep sense of care and concern.
So this makes me think of the Buddhist concept of non-attachment.
Oh, yeah.
Where it's not about being cold or unfeeling.
No.
But it's about recognizing the fluidity of life.
Yeah.
And responding with skillful action.
Exactly. And the sage's actions are guided by this profound understanding of reality. They see through the illusions of permanence and separation and act accordingly.
So it sounds like this way of being requires a lot of trust.
It does.
And the unfolding of life.
Yeah. It really requires surrendering to the flow of existence while simultaneously taking responsibility for our actions.
It's interesting how those two seemingly opposite ideas can coexist.
Right. It's a delicate dance.
Yeah.
Between acceptance and engagement.
This has been such an illuminating conversation.
I agree.
About the path of the sage. It's really inspired me to want to cultivate some of these qualities in my own life.
I'm so glad to hear that.
Like detachment, compassion, inner joy.
Yeah.
It's been a real joy unpacking this verse with you.
The pleasure is all mine.
And I hope our listeners have found it enriching as well.
Me too.
So to wrap things up.
Okay.
What's one final thought you want to leave our listeners with?
I would just encourage everyone to remember that the path of the sage is not reserved for a select few.
Right.
It's a journey that we can all embark on, step by step, moment by moment.
Yeah.
And by cultivating awareness, practicing compassion, and nurturing that inner connection to joy, we can all move towards that state of liberated being that the verse so beautifully describes.
That's a really inspiring message.
I think so.
And I think it's a perfect note to end on.
I agree.
So thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
And to all our listeners, we encourage you to continue exploring these ideas.
Yes.
See how they resonate with your own experience. Because the journey of self-discovery is an ongoing adventure. And we're all in this together.
Absolutely. Until next time, may you find peace, joy, and wisdom on your path.